My name's Adam Murphy. I'm a parent and carer. My eldest son, Ryan, is autistic, and I myself am waiting for diagnosis of autism, something I've known all my life, and I'm in the process of waiting for that to be formalized.
Okay. So you said you've known that all your life. Did you always feel like you might be neurodivergent?
I grew up in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I grew up with every one of those words that we don't use today. I grew up with all those words that people used to call children that were different. Some of the ones that were used because we didn't know any better. Some of the ones people blatantly used just to be derogatory towards people that were different. I've heard every one of them. I grew up. I needed speech therapy in my childhood years. I couldn't read right, do up my shoelaces. I needed, but none of that was identified within the education system. Wasn't identified by my parents. Yeah, it was a different time, and not something that I understood until I was in my 30s or 40s. Even though I knew that that's how I was brought up, it wasn't until that stage of life when you you have that moment when you start looking around other people and you think, hang on, that's not how I grew up. It was different for me.
So did you have quite a difficult time in school with either peers or teachers?
I had a difficult time in school and outside school. So I wasn't able to. I would act out a lot. I was looking back. I was extremely hyperactive, both at school and at home. And I was someone that probably shouldn't have been in the normal education system, purely because, and I mean, I think differently, I act differently. I'm not the same as everybody else, and I know we all say that. My parents didn't know how to deal with someone that was different, so they would use a belt, a bottle, whatever way to control me, because it was the 70s, and that we say, oh, it was the 70s, like that's a normal thing to do. It's not a normal thing to do, but for me, it was my normal.
Yeah, because I suppose there is a conversation about things that happened in the past, back in the 60s, 70s, what have you, that we kind of blame the time period that it was and not the people. So for racism or homophobia or any of these kind of things, I feel like people say, it was a different time, and it kind of maybe it's a bit of a scapegoat, I guess. Do you think that?
It is. It gives the players involved a get out of free jail card, and they don't deserve that. They don't deserve that. They deserve a conversation at the very least. They certainly don't deserve it was the 60s, it was the 70s. They don't deserve that. More conversation needs to be involved in that. And I'm, of course, being very polite and very well mannered about it, because it was a very, very difficult time. And I mean, at 14, I was homeless, used to sleep in phone boxes and things like that, and under cars. I mean, I've dove for my food and walked around the streets at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning at 4, 5 a.m. And then this is when we start talking about autism, because then at 14, 15, I needed to keep to my routines. So I'd still do my milk round. We're in the 70s. Before school, I did a milk round. So I still did a milk round. And then I went to school. I kept everything the same. And it never struck me as being strange or unusual, but I needed those familiarities as my safety net. I needed those. With everything else that was going wrong, I still needed to go to school. I mean, I was sleeping rough during the night and then going to school during the day, and no one, I was one of the kids that get forgotten, and some kids get forgotten. And back then, a lot of kids got forgotten.
Yeah. It's such a shame, but I suppose we will all be hearing about this and more at the ITICOM conference. But
Yeah,
to digress a little bit, your son is Ryan, and he's on the autistic spectrum,
yeah,
and you share an awful lot of your life online. And I
yeah.
wondered what was the catalyst for that? Why did you start sharing everything online?
Okay, so I think it was more the fact that I'm a bit of a different character to most people. I'm the person that will go into the room and will be remembered, and I'm the person that will get whatever my son needs. So when we talk about people, we talk about there's 10 people. I'm going to be that one parent that will get what my son needs, because I will be the person you will remember. No doubt about that, because I'm the person that had nothing, that came from nothing. And me and Ryan were homeless together ourselves. I don't ever want Ryan to experience what I had. So I fight hard. So then there's that moment, well, if you're the loud voice, what happens to those other 9 parents? What happens to those other 9 families that can't speak up, whether that be because they've got anxiety, whether that be because they just don't know and it's through nobody's fault? Well, then you've got to turn around and you've got to share your experience with another parent. Then we've got 8 parents that don't get, and then you've got 7, then you've got 6, then you've got 5, then you've got 4. So the idea is to share with as many people as possible, so that, because we all talk about how we're in this society and that society, there's still so much. When you've got a child that's diagnosed as autistic, there's still so much not spoken about. There's still so much out there that we can't get access to. And very often, the only way to do that is by speaking to a parent that's got the bruises, that's had the door slammed in their face, that's had the phone thrown down on them. Very often, it's those people we need to talk to. And by doing a page like Twitter, by talking openly, by doing TV interviews and radio interviews, that's what we do. And then I'll put a tweet out about cutting nails or baking a lasagna or getting a blue badge application or housing. How housing was difficult. And then I get a lot of people direct message me and go, well, we're going through that at the moment. How do we fill out those forms? So I get on the phone Sunday, whatever day it is. Sometimes I do it 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and talk to those parents and talk through it, because I know what that's like. I don't know what that's like because I've researched it and written a book about it. I know what it's like because I've banged those goddamn doors until my hands were bloody and shouted until my throat was hoarse. That's how I know what it's like. And I put that passion into it whenever I help a parent. And then all I want is that parent to go, and years later when someone else is in the same situation and then go, I know how to do that. That's all you can hope for, you know?
Yeah. On that, what do you think is the biggest, and I'm sure there are hundreds of challenges, but what would you say is the biggest challenge maybe at the moment for full-time carers? Not necessarily with autistic children, but just full-time carers in general, I think. What's a big challenge for you guys at the minute?
Visibility. We're not seen. Where's our voice? We've got carers charities that speak for us. Some of them, they've got directors of companies. Some of the staff are employed, and they're on £51,000 a year. Now, a carer gets £3,600 a year. They get £66.90. Very often that money is taken away from them. The people that we need to speak for us are people that with lived experience, and that goes not just for being a carer, but being autistic as well. I'm done with autistic. I'm done with going to places where the people that talk about autism aren't autistic or don't identify as autistic. There's so many autistic people out there, people neurodivergent, ADHD people that can't get jobs, that won't be employed. All we need to do is start employing the people, because at the moment we go to supermarkets and that, and we've got people that come up with these ideas that aren't autistic, and they don't work because they come from people that aren't autistic. All we've got to do is start, and I say all we've got to do, we've got to start making a change. We've got to start making autistic people visible. We wouldn't get into a situation where we would go into a meeting where the person talking about wheelchairs wouldn't be in a wheelchair. The person talking about wheelchairs would be in a wheelchair. Yet when it comes to autism or ADHD, the person in charge, very often, they've written a book and they're not autistic, or they don't identify autistic. We've got to change that. And until we change things like that, and the same as being a carer, we very often get people from charities that talk up for us, that get that £51,000 a year. Well, if you're on £51,000 a year, you don't know how to dive for your sandwich. You don't know how to queue up and get those red sticker items. You don't know how to fill out the forms. You don't know what it's like when that money doesn't come through. If you're on £51,000 a year, ask people that are getting nothing. Because when they get nothing, they know how to get it. Because otherwise, it's no food on the table. It's no rent that's being paid. That's the difference, and that's what we've got to change.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know I gave the example of racism and homophobia earlier on, but it's what it feels to me like is if there was a conversation about homophobia, homosexual person or a bisexual person or a trans person should be speaking about it. Or if it was a conversation about race, it should be a person of color. So why not a neurodivergent person talking about neurodiversity? It doesn't really make any sense to me.
And the biggest failing,
change.
Yeah, the biggest failing in that is right now we're in this movement where we call it all these various different names, but it misses disabilities. Whatever we want to call what we're going through, it misses disabilities. Disabilities doesn't seem to be part of that conversation. We seem to have missed autistic people off that. We've missed ADHD people off that, missed neurodivergent off that. You can still go to a comedy show where they don't talk open, for the most part, where they don't talk and joke about racism, rightly so, but they will still talk and joke about people with disabilities. People with disabilities seem to have been missed off whatever it is we're going through right now. This movement right now doesn't include disabilities or people with disabilities.
So Adam, I read a tweet that you had put out before, and you were talking about the fact that you suffered from anxiety quite a lot. But speaking to you today, and this is my first time speaking to you, you seem like a very passionate, you're a very, very good speaker. You're very articulate. How did you go from having anxiety and not being able to speak publicly to doing TV, doing radio, and speaking to me today?
It's really difficult because I'm an overthinker. So my anxiety will come before and after. So during, I'm fine. You put me in a room, in any room, and I'll make sure I'm the person that gets heard. Because that's what you have to do. Because the result of that will mean that your child gets nothing. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I'm at the bottom of my bed and I'm shaking and my anxiety is so bad. My OCD is really bad. I'm having to check in with my wife all the time. I'm having to, so when I read something, when I see something, the intrusive thoughts are going, they're flooding me, and I'm having to check on my phone all the time, just to check in. And I come up with this thing, and it's like, if this was fine for my son, would I be able to go into that room? Would I be able to get out of this room? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So I get up and I go to the doctor and I ask for help. I say, look, there's something going on. I don't know what's going on. I explained what was happening. It was at that time I was diagnosed with OCD and generalized anxiety disorder and also IBS. And I guess looking back, that was probably what started me onto the path of seeking the autism diagnosis, because as we know, these things do feature quite regularly with autistic people, the IBS, the anxiety and the OCD. And so it was like, well, sometimes I find it difficult to fight for me, to talk for me. And I'm much better when it's for other people. And it was in those moments where I knew that I was fighting for my son, and when I knew that I was helping more and more people. And it was shortly after that I did an interview on the BBC, and it was doing those things that it was like, even though I knew I was doing it for other people, it was actually helping me, and unbeknown to me, it was helping me. And then I had moments, months later or years later, it was like, I've grown more confident because I'm doing these interviews to help other people or to talk to other people. And it was helping me in ways that I didn't even realize it was at the time. And I was growing in confidence more and more. Just making eye contact with you right now is something that I couldn't do before. And men is a big thing with me. Talking to men is a big thing to me because it spikes my anxiety off, being in crowds. And things like that. Was a time that at that time when I took the dog for a walk, I had to go all the way round the other way just to avoid neighbours. And now I openly walk past, ask them how they are and things like that. And it wasn't something I could do a couple of years ago, but but what I could always do, even through that anxiety, I could always fight for my son. I could always speak up for him. I could always do those things. And it was that realization, well, if I can do that, then I can do this for me.
That's amazing. What do you do for yourself? We had I did an interview with a woman called Deirdre about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and she was talking about self-care for people in professional carers or carers at home. What are some things that you do on a daily basis or a monthly basis even to give some time to yourself and to look after you?
So around that same time, I was 24, 25 stone in weight, and I started going to the gym, and I lost 11 stone in weight by going to the gym, and I tapped into my OCD. Go to the gym, all the signs, all set time, set foods, set calories, and I did get support from my doctor, made sure I was very sensible about it. So that's something I carry on doing now. I carry on going to the gym. I do the gym a few times a week. That really helps with anxiety, because it's putting you in a position where you can control it, you can go at certain times so that it's not as busy and things like that, but that really helps with my anxiety. And it also means that I can get out of the house, just a 10-minute drive. I mean, I remember when I was asked to do Intercom, and I remember them saying, well, you'll need to get the train down there. And that moment where not everybody realizes that you're going to sit as a carer, you're going to sit in a train for a couple of hours on your own, and during those couple of hours you're going to be able to have a coffee on your own uninterrupted, and you're going to be able to walk up and down that carriageway and go to the toilet. That doesn't happen. That you don't get opportunities like that, and you don't give yourself that much time as a carer to have that time for yourself. So just 10 minutes at the gym. Back then, I went through therapy for my anxiety, and I was doing so much for my son that I wasn't doing anything for me at all. And eventually, and it's going to sound really peculiar for people that don't have anxiety, but I built up to doing a dog walk, just 5 minutes a day. She insisted that I just take the dog out for 5 minutes, and I built up to 20 minutes, and just to have that 5 minutes on my own. And that's how bad my anxiety got, and that's how bad my self-care got. Because, and we all say it, we as carers, we hate being told to have a cup of tea. We hate being told just have a rest, just have a bath. We hate that because, or the majority of us do, because it's not always that simple, and it's not always that easy. So when someone says have a cup of tea and have a bath, you translate that however you want, because your cup of tea might be something else. Your have a bath might be something else. And if you do know a carer, and you know what I mean, and they do turn you away, and they very most likely do, but be the reason that they're going to pick up the phone. And if they ain't got time for a cup of tea, leave a packet of tea bags and some biscuits on the doorstep or something like that, because there will come a time that they will need that cup of tea and biscuits. And we're going to tell you to sod off, because that's what we do, because we haven't got time. But secretly, we're going to like it. We need it. We need someone to tell us, because we're so engulfed and so wrapped up in the person that we're looking. I've been caring for my son for 20 plus years, and I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. I went to bed at 11 o'clock last night. I'm tired beyond being able to have a sleep. Sleep can't repair that anymore. No more than having a cup of tea can. But there are things that we can do. We've got to recognize it. We've got to be like, I know that I'm tired. I know that I'm worn out. But things like doing the autism page, those greatly help me. Twitter and that gets a bad reputation and that, but you get people. I mean, this morning, so far this morning, I've had 3 single dads contact me over a tweet that I did. 3 single dads contact me saying, one saying, I've got a 5-year-old son, and the tweet that you did, I just want to say thank you so much, and it means a lot to me. And I get a lot of things like that, and it's things like that that you realize that you are making a difference, because dads, single dads, single mums, they're going through a lot right now, and they're doing all that on their own as well as being a carer. And they just want someone to be saying, I've gone through that. Not in a judgy way, not in a just like, I've gone through that. I mean, the tweet was about me and Ryan when my relationship broke down with his mum. He was 3 years old, just diagnosed autistic. And we left that night, and me and him were homeless together. And that's what the tweet was. And that was 23 years ago. And the other thing that's worth mentioning is when I'm out and about with my son, people see what I'm doing for him. So they see me helping him across the road. They see all the things I'm doing to help him. But when that guy's hand is in mine, what he does for my anxiety, I can't even begin to tell you. He just helps it melt away. And as an anxiety sufferer, him holding my hand like that, it just means the world to me, you know. And I guess what I'm trying to say is there's more going on than you think at some. You know what I mean? It's not it's not just about the care I give him. It's about the care he gives me too, and he doesn't even know it. You know, that's what's beautiful about it. He doesn't even know what he does for me.
Yeah. Well, Adam, I can't wait to see you at ITACOM. I'm really looking forward to your talk, and we've been talking about time, so I'm going to let you go. Get back to your day. But listen, thank you so much, and I know everybody in our audience are really going to love this interview. So thank you so much, and have a really nice Christmas, and we'll talk to you soon.
Brilliant. Take care. Happy Christmas.